What did you eat for breakfast 5 years ago today? Chances are you can't say. Whether it's a forgotten meal, misplaced keys, or an umbrella left at home, we forget things all the time. But why do our memories fail us? To answer this question, let's ask a related one. When do our memories fail? For one, we often forget things that happened long ago. A meal from 5 years ago may be lost to the winds of time, but a meal from 5 days or 5 hours ago is much more fresh in our minds. We also forget things that are irrelevant to us. I'm guessing 5 years ago was just another day to you, but if it were a more meaningful day, like say a birthday, you'd be much more likely to remember it. Similarly, anthropologists observe that societies tend to collectively remember important information through monuments, stories, and institutions designed to preserve history. So, overall, our brains are doing a balancing act, prioritizing stuff that's useful, like memories that are recent and relevant to us, even at the expense of other memories. This makes sense when we consider that our brains have evolved over millions of years. Just like birds evolved wings that help them fly, cheetahs evolved fast legs to catch prey, and bears evolved to hibernate during the winter when food is hard to find. We have brains that are adapted to retain information that you likely need to use from the past. Generally, this can serve us well, but problems arise when there's a misalignment, when things we want to access are not what our memory systems are structured to retain. In these cases, our memories fail us. But how do our memories fail? Once again, let's sidestep the question and ask how our memories succeed. Psychologists and neuroscientists generally think of memory in 3 stages. First, you have to encode information, or put it in your memory. So, if you're at the penguin exhibit at a zoo, you have to first get a copy of that experience into your memory, in order to remember it later. Now, obviously, there's not a literal penguin in your head. Instead, you encode what philosophers of mind call a mental representation. That is, the neurons in your brain fire in a specific pattern that reflect the experiences you have at a given time. It's kind of like how a photo can be stored in the wiring of a computer. But our representations can be fuzzy and miss some things, and this is one way our memories can fail. If we don't encode an accurate representation of our experience, we won't be able to remember it later. Once the information is encoded, you have to keep it there, or store it. Unlike with computer files, this isn't a static process. For instance, one thing our brain does is consolidate our memories. When we first encode new information, it's stored in a fragile, temporary state in a place in the middle of the brain called the hippocampus. Then, over time, this information is shuttled off and spread across the outside of the brain, called the neocortex, where it finds a much more stable home. It's kind of like how food goes bad on the counter, but stays fresh for much longer in the fridge or freezer. And here's the thing, when your memories are first acquired and stored in your hippocampus, new information can write over it and interfere with the memory, preventing it from being stored properly. As a side note, this is also one reason why experts say sleep can be good for your memory. While you're resting, your brain is busy shuttling off the memories from the day to your neocortex, keeping them nice and stable. The last step is retrieval. Just like you have to type some words to get back results when searching for things online, your brain needs a cue to prompt it to bring some specific memory to mind. But sometimes, the cue your brain gets is related to too many memories to bring one specific item most clearly to mind. And this is just one more way our memories can fail. So, what have we learned so far? Well, our memories work in 3 steps. First, we encode a representation of some information. Then, we have to store it there as our brain does some cleaning and sorting. And finally, we need some cue to retrieve a memory. Each of these active processes have been tuned over millions of years to help us remember what we need as much of the time as possible. But you can never be 100% sure of what you'll need to know in the future, and so sometimes what we need is not what our brains encode, store, or retrieve. In those cases, our memories fail.